Hello, my name is Sarah Campsell, and today I will be talking to you about Swift Trust in virtual teams. This is for project management for information systems, revision 6 for June 28, 2017. The keywords for my paper were virtual team management, trust management, Swift Trust, virtual team building, and job performance. And the CCS Concepts was social and professional topics, management of computing and information systems, project and people management, and project management techniques. Virtual teams are advantageous because they often start a project that would be ignored because of travel costs. They allow for team members to collaborate from all around the globe, and they allow for expertise that may be otherwise limited by geography. Virtual teams require some level of trust to truly work. This presentation will examine a concept known as Swift Trust, or trust that is formed in temporary working groups, which of course we're talking about here, virtual teams. And this presentation will also cover ways in which to carry over that initial trust into something that will last throughout the project's life cycle. Trust on a virtual team. Trust in a regular working environment is built through sharing the same workplace culture, day-to-day interaction with coworkers, a sense of shared experience, and first-hand knowledge of coworkers' past behavior. However, building trust in a virtual workplace is especially hard because team members haven't had the chance to meet each other in person. They don't have the face-to-face communication that is taken for granted in real life teams, and employees are geographically dispersed, which of course leads to lack of community. Building trust on a virtual team may seem daunting to a project manager. However, studies have shown that trust can indeed be built and maintained on virtual teams, even with geographically dispersed team members. Trust can be built rapidly and naturally in the virtual team environment with a concept known as Swift Trust. What Swift Trust does is de-emphasize the interpersonal dimensions and is based initially on broad categorical social structures and later on action of the team members. Swift Trust concept. Temporary groups work on complex tasks and they depend on an elaborate collection of skills from different team members. There usually isn't time to develop and maintain trust in the more traditional forms. However, temporary teams with no past history immediately begin to engage in trusting behaviors, and it was thought that the team members imported this trust from other contexts. This is where the Swift Trust concept was developed. Now, Swift Trust relies on several assumptions. The smaller the team, the more rapidly the trust will develop. Now, role-based interaction leads to rapid development of trust. If roles and their expectations are defined and defined by their tasks and specialties, it helps other team members quickly reinforce expectations. However, inconsistent role behavior leads to a slower build of trust by heightening uncertainty within the team. Now, Swift Trust concepts. The initial act of group formation forms the initial foundation of Swift Trust. The credibility of the contractor or project manager can often serve as a substitute for traditional interpersonal history. It's known as reputational capital, and this allows the virtual team members to trust in the project manager because of previous successful projects. They trust in you, and they trust that you would have built a successful team. Challenges with Swift Trust. Swift Trust uses processes that build on an individual's belief on the other team members' capability, reliability, and dependability. It's based on assumptions, and because of this, it is fragile and it can be withdrawn if there is disruptions or unexpected delays or discontinuities. Swift Trust is conditional, and it needs reinforcement and calibration by actions. And this is where the role of the project manager comes in. Challenges with Swift Trust. As time progresses, Swift Trust is that trust will be verified and re-evaluated by the virtual team members. The project manager will need to maintain that trust, and the trust may be at its peak the moment the project starts. So it's important to develop and maintain the trust for any project manager, and it's especially critical for complex and rapid turnaround projects. So now we're going to look at the current research. First study we're going to look at is normative actions. In one study, researchers looked at the normative actions involving monitoring performance norms in virtual teams. Setting performance norms, goals, and schedules, for example, will establish standards for team behavior. If you monitor performance norms, which involves tracking team members, this minimizes the belief that others' actions will negatively impact the project. And the researchers also hypothesized that these normative actions would work in concert with Swift Trust and build that trust into a more concrete, late trusting beliefs. So the group studied 74 teams across 4 continents, and they were challenged to write a business plan in a virtual environment to look at the normative action and Swift Trust. And they found that if the group had a strong basis of early trust, this normative action would build into late trusting beliefs. And they also found that normative actions had a significant positive effect on team performance. We're also going to look at role clarity. Another team of researchers looked at the importance of role clarity and the importance of forming trusting relationships in multinational military forces. Role clarity is an important part of Swift Trust. It allows team members to make assumptions about the others based on the role that they hold in the project. And the participants in the study were from 2 groups, the emergency services and critical infrastructure, within multi-agency arrangement. And the research found that when the role of the participant in the group was not fully understood at the start, the trust wasn't there, and fostering trust was perceived as a challenge. It found that participants from the emergency services specified that role clarification was a contributing factor to the success of liaison officers working in strategic emergency operation centers. And we'll also look at team interactions. So a virtual team was tasked with organizing an interdisciplinary scientific conference, and researchers examined the Swift Trust developing and how emergent trust affected task completion. So they started analyzing a message board, and they looked at 3 types of topics. question and answer, the social message board, and the task-oriented message board. So they examined these 3 varieties of interactions, and then they could examine and analyze the ways in which swift trust was created and sustained amongst the members. They found that through the combination of different forms of interactions, that swift trust was able to flourish. So the posters who posted to all 3 categories were the most productive. However, in the study, they caution that because engagement can vary so widely across team members, some members don't necessarily enjoy just posting to message boards, or they have different posting styles. So it's not, you can't necessarily glean from that the development of swift trust on members who didn't engage in the community. Now we'll look at, and in my discussion, we'll talk about normative action. Swift trust allows team members who have never worked together before, who have no prior history together, to work on a project and complete their assigned tasks. But normative action helps team members focus on relevant assigned tasks without worrying about teammates following through with their own tasks. This trust allows team members to ask for help more openly instead of concealing it for fear of looking weak to others. And it also allows team members to have meaningful communication and true collaboration. However, this trust needs to be reinforced by the project manager, and current research has shown it can be reinforced with several methods. There's 3 methods shown in this paper. Normative action, involving performance norms, setting clear performance norms for the team, goals, schedules, tasks, and processes. And this establishes standards for behavior that the entire virtual team is expected to follow. And role clarity is the second thing. It's vital to building swift trust. If the roles are defined right away, the team will automatically understand each team member's tasks and specialties, and then the team members themselves can reinforce those expectations. But if there's confusion at the beginning, research has shown that there's a significant lack of trust, and it will be difficult to build that trust as time goes on. So as project manager, it's vital you set up clear roles for each of your team members on the outset, along with clarifying tasks, processes, and goals. And engaging team members. Engaging them in a variety of interactions, social, task-oriented, and question and answer, can you develop strong trust? The study showed that participants who were most engaged in all 3 types of interactions were also the most productive. However, the study looked at the team members' engagement on electronic message board, and not everyone is prone to communicating this way. And further research. There is a lot of further research that can be done. If you search for swift trust in virtual teams, you won't find very many articles. I think I read one study, one preview that showed maybe 50 articles in the last 15 years have been published, but it'll be interesting to look at cultural boundaries. Do cultural barriers exist that hamper swift trust development? Looking at time zones. Does being able to communicate directly in real-time chat affect the relationship of the team members, or does email suffice? And look at role definition. Most of the research up to this point looks at role definition based on temporary teams in the same location. However, a more thorough look at the effect in virtual team environment is needed. Anyway, that's my presentation. I'm Sarah Campsell, and this has been a presentation on swift trust. And here is my references. And thank you very much. Appreciate your time.